Okay, awesome. I think everyone can hear us. So, hello everyone. And yeah, welcome to today's Meet the DAO Executive Directors event. I'm really glad that you're all here and especially happy to have you, Gina, with us in World. And in World really is the keyword today because this event isn't being streamed live externally. It's exclusive for us users in World. But of course, there will be a recording available later for anyone who couldn't make it today, though. So before we get started, I would like to share just a few words with you all. This event is designed to introduce Gino Cingolani, the new executive director of the DecentralandDAO, to give insights into his vision for the DAO and the new DCL Regenesis Labs, but also learn about his journey that led to this position. And just as important, it's a space for you. If you have questions, ideas, or maybe concerns about the DAO or the Regenesis, this is your moment to connect and to be heard. But please let's wait with your questions to the second part of the event. Also, I would like to mention that I'm aware that everything related to the DAO tends to spark loud and sometimes emotional discussions. That seems to be just a part of it, and it shows people care. But what I would really wish for tonight is that we all step into this conversation with a little patience and openness, and that as a community we manage to create a space where we can express ourselves freely and where everyone feels heard. Also, you've probably noticed how simple this word looks, and that's on purpose. I wanted to create a space where nothing distracts us from the conversation we're having, um, a space where we can fully focus on us, the speakers, on the moment, and on you, the community. So let's take the space and make it ours with your avatars, your presence, and your thoughts, and let's fill this void together. To help this, to help make this possible, we also need to have the right tools. So that's why tonight you, the community, will be the one who moderates this event. If someone is being disruptive, you will have the ability to vote them out. What counts as disruptive, that's totally up to you. I trust you. I trust your judgment. And if you have any questions about how it works, feel free to reach out to MGD here in World. And of course, huge thanks to MGD for making all of this possible tonight by building it. Also, if something comes up during the interview part and you would like to give a reaction, you can use the UI on the bottom of your screen to share them by using the emojis. You can test it if you like. The emojis will appear on the screen behind Gina and me. In that way, we can easily see your sentiment. And otherwise, I would like to ask you to please hold your questions um, until the question and answer at the end. So, Gino, is there anything that you would like to add, or should we get started? Hello, hello. I think I lost Gino. That's not good. So, Gino, if you can hear me, I can't hear you on Discord. I can't hear you. I'm sorry about that. I hear you.
How about
Oh,
now?
I hear you. Hello, Gino.
Hey. Hey.
Hello.
How's it
Oh,
going?
I hope I haven't talked about you earlier because I haven't heard you. So,
Well, I
Gino,
just changed my mic, so we're ready to go.
very good. Is there anything you would like to add, or should we go started?
No, let's get started. Let's keep this like as informal and transparent as possible. Ask questions, I will answer. Let's have a nice conversation.
Awesome. So
Cool.
please make yourself as comfy as possible on those sponge chairs. I know they can be a bit scrubby sometimes, but I think we will be fine. So, all right, that said, let's jump into today's event. So, Gino, you've been part of Decentraland for quite a while now. You were a member of the governance squad as a senior product manager since early 2021, part of the DAO committee since 2023, and you've represented Decentraland as a speaker at major Web3 conferences like EVE, LATAM in Buenos Aires, and much more, of course. And I'm pretty sure, Gino, that you can tell the story way better than I ever could. So maybe let's begin our conversation by going back to your very, very early days in the Decentraland. And since maybe here users today who never met you in web before, I would like to start with a question that we often ask each other when we're meeting someone for the first time here. And this is, how did you discover the Decentraland?
Hmm. Okay, nice question. So first of all, one clarification: I've never been part of the DAO committee. So I've been leading the governance squad since early 2022. It was one of the first core unit grants that started working on the operational aspects of the DAO. But the reality is that I've heard and I've knew about Decentraland since 2017, 2018. I've known some of the original team members because we were all living in the same city and we met at events, at parties, friends' houses, and I knew that they were doing like this weird metaverse immersive social experience type of thing. And I recall going once to Voltaire House, which is a place where Decentraland started in the Palermo neighborhood in Buenos Aires, Argentina. At that time, I was working at one of the biggest like social networks in Latin America, something similar to Reddit, but for Spanish-speaking markets. I was the head of product there, and I remember having a conversation at that time with. So Yema was there for sure, but other team members that at that time I didn't knew them that well, so I cannot remember who they were. But part of the team that was building the foundations of the product. And I remember going to Voltaire and having conversations regarding community building and how to build products with a community focus. They were interested in building that part of Decentraland when they were writing the white paper and doing the initial like pre-launch of the project. So I would say that was the first time I heard about Decentraland. The reality is that I've been always interested in immersive worlds and like, I don't know, role-playing games. When I was a teenager, I played Lord of the Rings and Dungeons and Dragons with my friends. So I was always interested in these kind of experiences. So when I heard about this happening in my own city, like starting there, I got super excited. And then I lost track because I started like doing different things. And then back in 2021, when the metaverse hype started, of course, Decentraland was on the news again. Like people were going crazy about the price of lands and everything. So I started hearing about Decentraland again, and I started having conversations about the project. So yeah, that was it.
Do you remember the first impression when you first time stepped into the
Yeah,
Decentraland?
of course. Yeah, my feeling was that I was entering to MySpace age type of environment, like this weird, not super algorithmically curated, a little bit chaotic, a little bit, I don't know, diverse in terms of like aesthetics. At that time, like MySpace was pretty much dead, but we still had Tumblr back at that time. So I felt that vibe of early 2000s internet, and I really like that.
Okay. Um, do you have any idea back then when you say you stepped into Central and you liked it, but did you have any idea that you would become so deeply involved with the project over time?
No, no. To be honest, when the metaverse hype started, I was in a completely different business. I was working as a senior product manager for a info security company. It was like a super serious and kind of boring job. I mean, it was challenging, but it was kind of boring. And at that time, I was like super focused on my product management career and doing that. But in the like deep in my heart, I was missing working with products that were community focused and more, I don't know, socially oriented, let's say. My background is not in technology. My background is in media studies and social sciences. Even though I've been working in tech for the last 15 years, I really felt that need of working in a tech project that was super human and community oriented.
Hmm. Okay, so since you already mentioned it, let's move on to your time in the governance squad as senior product manager. And let me switch the. Oh, I forgot to switch the voice. Sorry for that. So yeah. um, Before we dive deeper into your experience, could you first explain to all of us what the governance squad is and what its main responsibilities were?
Yeah, of course. So the governance squad, as I was saying, it was the first like operational core unit of the DAO. When the Decentraland project started, as you probably know, two pretty big vesting contracts were created, each one with a value of 222 million mana. One of those vesting units was to fund the Decentraland Foundation, and the other one was to fund the DecentralandDAO. So back in 2021, the DAO started with the first version of their grants program and some discussions regarding smart contracts and content curation and all of that. But the reality was that the Decentraland Foundation was building the tools for the DAO to make decisions. And they were super focused on their own roadmap, like building the reference client. And all the things related to the DAO were like, the like second tier type of thing. It wasn't a priority. But when the DAO started distributing money amongst community members to basically to fund community projects, they realized that some kind of team focused on product building was needed to build the tools that the community would use to make decisions regarding the product. It is critical for a DAO. It is critical for any kind of project that allows community members to make decisions, that the information is out there, it's easy to understand, and it's easy to digest in order to make better decisions. So my team started as as the technical foundations of the DAO in terms of any kind of affordances the community would use to make decisions. So the grants, the vesting contracts, the transparency reports, the DAO homepage, like anything related to that was built by the governance squad, who was a product engineering team composed of 3 full stack engineers, 1 product designer, and me as a product manager and team leader. So we've been working since early 2022 till September 2024, where our 4th grant period ended, and we decided not to renew our budget, our operational budget, because the discussions regarding Regenesis and the reality was that the tools that we were building were mature enough for the community to use them as they were. So we made a decision of not renewing the grant, and that was the end of the governance squad.
Okay.
It was an amazing journey because I had the opportunity to basically to work again with people that I've worked in the past, amazing professionals that have worked with me in previous companies, and also I had the delight of working with some of the most talented and smart people in the tech industry in Buenos Aires that I really admired. So it was nice to do that, and it was also pretty chaotic because, as I was telling you, I was coming from a like publicly traded infosec company, super professional, super organized, like super perfect, and then I decided to quit that job and started like working on the governance squad, which was like a grant. The community would vote for the continuation of my job for the next 6 months. I was like getting paid in crypto. Like everything was like super weird. But I really like the idea of like building those kind of tools for a community. So it was nice.
Yeah, that sounds like really big changes in your life back then.
Yeah.
Um, I would like to ask you, how did this role came to you in the first place, and what what do you think made you the good fit for the governance squad at the time so that you got the position?
Yeah, so I was at the time I was living in Barcelona in Spain, and I got a message from a recruiter on LinkedIn. Um, she was a girl that I knew from Buenos Aires, even though I was living in Spain at that time. So she sent me a message on LinkedIn telling me that there was a potential job opportunity for an e-commerce platform in Germany, and she was telling me if I was interested. And I recall answering that I wasn't interested in any like product management role in an e-commerce platform. That I feel that that type of industry is pretty boring. Uh, and she was really smart, so she replied back saying, "Okay, you're not interested in that, but if you are answered my message, that's because you want some change. So tell me what you're looking for, and I will help you find it." And well, at that time it was like the metaverse hype, the NFT summer, like everything was going crazy. And I remember telling her that I was a bit bored at my job and I wanted to work at a project that was more human, more community focused, more humane at some point. And if it was decentralized and Web3, even better.
Mm.
And she sent me an email telling me, "Hey, do you know a project called Decentraland? It's from some guys from Argentina. You probably know them." And I was like, "Yeah, of course, I know Decentraland. I know the project. I know some of them." So he was like, "Okay, they are looking for a product manager for Decentraland." I was like, "Okay, I will take that." So I made my first interview with, at that time, so Aus Ferreira was the executive director of the Decentraland Foundation. And I remember having like a 2-hour interview with him. We talked about a lot of things. I remember that we had like a 4 or 5 hours like difference in the time zone. So it was like super late for me in Barcelona. My girlfriend was there waiting for me because we wanted to go out and go to a bar or have a drink or something. It was like 11 p.m. Spain time, and I was like talking with this guy. And when the formal part of the interview ends, he tells me, "Okay, this interview has been amazing. It's great, but I have to be honest with you. I've just hired a person for this role that you're interviewing for." Like literally 5 hours before talking with you. So I was like, "Okay, fuck. I've spent 2 hours talking with someone and I'm not gonna get the job. That's fine." And he was like, "Okay, but I really want you to be part of Decentraland somehow. So let me know. So let me find some opportunities. I will let you know if something comes up." And I was like, "Okay, that's fine." And like a week later, a week and a half later, he sends me a message saying, "Hey, the Decentraland as a project, I mean, you were interviewing for a role in the Decentraland Foundation, but Decentraland as a project has a DAO. You know what a DAO is?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course I know what a DAO is." And he says, "Okay, I want you to meet this guy who's like helping form the operational teams for the DAO. I want you to have an interview with him and see how it goes." And that guy was Yemel. So at that time, he was helping forming the core units of the DAO. So I remember having a couple of interviews with him. I think I had like 3 or 4 interviews with him and some exercises. And in the end, I got the job for the governance squad. So that was it.
That was a wild ride.
Yeah.
When you tell it like this. Crazy. Okay, so this was your time in the governance squad in the beginning. But maybe let's take a step forward to the next step on your DAO journey, because I would like to talk with you about your time in the DAO committee, if this is okay with you.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been in the DAO committee.
Oh, sheesh, I
I
saw
wasn't.
your.
No.
I
I mean, I've
ah,
never been part of the DAO committee. The DAO committee, when I started engaging in Decentraland, was HP, Yemel, and then Eric, and then the current DAO committee, which is HP, risk, and TOEIC, but
Okay.
I've never been part of the committee.
I understand. Okay. I saw your application back then and found
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I've applied to that role, but I wasn't elected at the time.
Mm. Okay. So, um, okay. Maybe then it's time to talk a little bit about how the role in the governance squad has shaped your perspective of the DAO as it is today. Because I think this is something important, because it's part of your journey. And
Mm-hmm.
I would like to talk with you. What were the key lessons that you took from those experiences we were just talking about for what the DAO is right now?
So I think I've been in the peak hype of the DAO's space, which was 2022. Uh, I was amazed at the speed of the experimentation that DAOs could make regarding basically human governance and decision making processes. So I don't know. I've been part of amazing conversations. I've been part. I mean, I've attended to DAO focused conferences in 2022 and 2023. Being MCon in Denver, probably the most amazing space to discuss decentralized governance. The reality is that, like in the last 3 years, we've seen DAOs going from nothing to radically decentralized organizations to this current approach, which is more strategic, which is more focused on making sure that the treasuries the DAOs have, because there are some DAOs that have really huge treasuries, are more strategical in how they use the resources they have. um, the reality is that at the beginning, like mid 2022, everyone was like super excited about participating in governance, making decisions, helping shape new decision making processes and everything. And then I believe that the hype or the interest, yeah, faded out because being part of a DAO is pretty hard. It's pretty challenging. I like there's a nice tweet that I've seen a couple of weeks ago that said that DAOs is dudes arguing online, and that's kind of true, right? It's like it's part of the dynamic of most of the DAOs.
Mm.
A lot of projects basically hard forked because of DAO discussions. A lot of people got a lot of hate and a lot of heat because the positions they defended in DAOs. So I feel that we're getting into a moment a little bit more mature. I believe that there's gonna be opportunities to reshape the way we are interacting with each other. I think we went to, okay, this is amazing, it's radical, it's new, and it's gonna transform everything, to the disappointment of, okay, people is people and we all behave as people, even though in this kind of environments, to the moment that we're now, that it's more like, okay, let's try to prioritize the mechanisms that work for projects governance, for human governance, and let's see if we can progressively iterate and modify those to make them even better using the technologies that we have at hand. And I think that we are in that moment. So, for example, the newly formed DAO Council for the DecentralandDAO, that's basically representative governance. It's a little bit more liquid than a traditional representative governance in a country, but it's still representative governance. I know that we can do better, for sure. I know that we can get to a point where like we don't need a council. But for now and for the moment that we are, I think most of the DAOs are going a little bit more traditional in order to produce results, in order to improve their operational capacity, and in order to be more wise on their spending and the use of their funds. But I don't think this is going to end like this. I think we will have time to evolve, and we will have time to to be more radical, to be more creative at some point. But we need to go through this stage.
So, where do you see decentralization in the bigger picture? Because as you explained it, it sounds like we're in a learning phase where we need to maybe overcome our own humanity. I don't know, because we need to learn new ways to communicate with each other. And the Decentraland DAO was very much about decentralization in the very beginning. Like decentralization is the biggest goal. Right now, for me, it feels more like we are going a little bit step back of that. But is decentralization maybe not a starting point of our journey, but more the goal that we are reaching for?
So decentralization, it's always a gradient. It's like you tend to decentralize projects, you tend to decentralize governance. It's like the end goal, but you have to make steps towards that. So for me, and in the moment that we are right now, we are seeing basically huge technology companies taking ownership of basically every aspect of our digital and our offline lives. I think it is important to maintain the vision of building something that cannot be controlled by anyone, that cannot be controlled by a single entity, that can be forked, that can be replicated, that can be taken as a public good somehow. So I think that's really, really important, and that's the reason why I think Decentraland is an interesting project. Having a decentralized content server networks like the Catalyst, having a P2P com server to basically connect with each other. So basically, I'm seeing at the screen, I'm seeing all of you, and there's no single server that controls that experience. So that's fundamental. That's critical. So for me, that's the fundamental aspect of like the decentralization aspect of the project. Because to be honest, yeah, the DAO maybe 2 years ago was more decentralized, like in papers. But the reality is that, and we all know this, the concentration of voting power makes decentralization, I wouldn't say a joke, because it's not a joke. It's important that votations and discussions are made in public, and it's important for people to have a voice. But the reality is that most of the decisions could be passed if some of the whales that we all know voted on them. So for me, decentralization is about that. It's about making sure that the things that we are building cannot be controlled by a single entity, making sure that we can prove the point that a project can have more than one entity building and contributing towards the same goal. So for me, it's about that. That's the key.
So from your perspective as an insider, I would say of the DAO, because you worked for the governance squad, did you see anything inside of the system that maybe wasn't obvious from the outside? Something that could have caused trouble, because when we're talking about voting power and how it may have influenced the DAO as we know it, and maybe even led to the restructuring that we now have, was this something that was a topic inside of the DAO back then?
Yeah, I think we built pretty good mechanisms for accountability. I always say that. I mean, even though when the restructuring of the DAO was proposed, one of the main reasons was that the grants program wasn't like producing good results. But the reality is that the accountability mechanisms that were created for the grants program were one of the most advanced accountability mechanisms that any DAO had at that time. So I've engaged in optimism. I've engaged in Arbitrum. I know people working for governance consultation services. And the reality is that when I presented, and when the Grant Support Squad presented the grants program at major crypto conferences, the reception was really good. Like, hey, you are building something that it's really, really amazing, and it's pretty detailed, and it's informative to the community, and creates accountability to the grantees and everything. But the problem wasn't about only accountability. It was about the strategy. Like, why are we building the things that we're building? Why are we funding the things that we're funding? Just because someone thought that that could be a good idea and got the voting power to get the proposal passed and get the money? Well, I think that's an issue, right? I think that's something that maybe we haven't seen at that time. At least from my point of view, I was like, hey, the community knows what they want. They are they are the ones that know what should be funded, and I had that perception, and I had that thought for the first couple of months or even a year. But then I realized that, yeah, even though, of course, the community knows what they want, but the reality is way more complex, because it's not only what they want. It's about what the foundation is building. It's about where the market is going. It's about, okay, this idea is amazing. Will it create some kind of engagement? Will it create a new audience in this center? Like, all those things were things that no one was asking when voting for a grant. They were voting for a grant just because I know the team, I know they're capable of delivering, I know that I think the idea is cool. The decision were like too atomic, right? So I think that what we have right now, this idea of like a council that it's a little bit more strategic, will help basically shaping or creating a vision where everyone will be able to contribute. So, okay, we say, okay, the objectives for this quarter are going to be this, this, and this, and then we'll let the community propose things to make those goals a reality, right? So I think that's something that at the beginning for me, I was thinking about it in one way, and after a few months, I completely changed my mind and realized that we needed some kind of guidance, some kind of stewardship, and that stewardship didn't mean that it was centralized.
So already back then, you noticed that we may need some deeper structural changes. Like, was there a time where you thought this isn't just a small fix? Like, as you just said, we might need rethink how the entire DAO works. That has already started back then in 2021.
We were doing small fixes all the time. We had two grant bosses. The last grant boss didn't have a like a better option. So we basically, the community decided to pause the grants program, and that was it. Like, no one came up with a new idea. And my perception at that time was that, okay, no one is coming with a new idea because no one knows how to fix this. Because if we keep doing like small patches, we will get to the same situation in 6 months, in 8 months, in a year. So that's where I realized that, okay, maybe we need to do something that it feels more radical, more authentic, bigger, and something that could create a new energy in the DAO.
So this is where the idea of the Regenesis maybe already started to grow in you, because this would bring us perfectly to the next step on your journey, the Regenesis Summit itself. Let me quick change the foil. Okay, so yeah. So the journey to becoming the executive director of you was also a major turning point for the DAO itself, I think. Like we said, the Regenesis Summit in September 2024. In May of the same year, like 1 year ago, the DCL Summit took place. And I believe shortly after that, in June, you published a forums post with the title Regenesis, Let's Meet in Real Life and Revitalize the DAO, where you introduced the idea for what would later become the Regenesis Summit as we know it. In that post, and I think we already covered this very good, you mentioned and you described our DAO in a crisis, that the grants program, as I said, has been paused and there was no clear plan for what would come next. And I also remember that many creators were leaving because they felt like there were no real reasons to stay. And, also we talked about the personal attacks and the toxic atmosphere that the DAO had in it. And yeah, important proposals were being blocked, fear people were voting, and some key contributors, including core unit leads and community members, had stepped down. So you ended this list with a very, very strong statement. It's time for a change, and we're the only ones who can make it. So for me, it would be very great if you could take us back to that moment, or maybe even a little bit earlier, when this idea of the Regenesis Summit, as you mentioned it in this forums post, really first arose. Was it maybe at the community summit earlier this year? Or
Yeah, I think there were two major turning points, and I think I've talked about this in Lisbon and probably in a Twitter space after Lisbon. But one was, yeah, the community summit. So the community summit was a great opportunity to meet people in real life and have conversations that in any other way could have happened, right? So it was great because at the community summit we had, I think, 3 or 4 sessions regarding the DAO. So the Grand Support Squad organized one, Mariana and HP organized another one, and then Luke, Ail, organized another one that was really, really good. And they were all at capacity. And so to be honest, it really surprised me because I was there. But I mean, I've made one of the like opening talks, opening keynotes, and I've talked about the things that we've been doing in the DAO in the last 2 years and the challenges that we were facing for the future. But to be honest, I felt that everyone was there just to hear what Foundation was had to basically to tell the community and also to meet with creators and have like a good time. But I when we had the DAO sessions, I realized that the community was really interested in discussing and fixing those things. So I see on the audience some people that were at the community summit, and they can probably confirm what I was saying. But the energy of those sessions were like really, really powerful. Like, hey, there's something valuable that we have in our hands. Let's find a way to fix it. Let's find a way to improve this situation because we all know that the DAO is critical and the treasury is critical to fund projects and to keep our creators engaged. Like, I'm not saying nothing new. We don't have the audience that Roblox have. We don't have the audience that wherever Fortnite has. Like, we need to keep people engaged somehow, and we need to make sure that we are crafting amazing experiences for the audiences to get hooked to Decentraland somehow. And the DAO treasury is basically the way that we have to do that, at least for now. So that was one thing, community summit for sure. And the other thing was back in May/June 2024, I have been listening to a podcast about a constitutional reform in Argentina back in 1994. I had 5 or 6 years at that time. And basically, the way they organized the Constitutional Assembly was to put all the legislators in one small town in the middle of nowhere in Argentina to discuss and make sure they got an agreement and present the new version of the Constitution to the Congress. And they've been basically confined in a hotel in a small city for almost 3 months. And the podcast was about around interviews to the people who has been at that constitutional assembly, not only congressmen but also journalists, people working at the hotels and everything. And it was amazing because they were all mentioning the importance of getting to an agreement, getting to a consensus, and the radical experience of being at the same place with the people that you were basically arguing all the time at the Congress, and getting to an agreement over a coffee and having conversations and having discussions, and like being in a strange, like in an isolated place. So that's where I realized that we need to do something like that. Of course, online is amazing. Of course, the internet is the most amazing and powerful and beautiful tool that humanity have created. But sometimes the body is important. Sometimes being present, it's important. And if we could create a sense where, if we could create like an experience where the people could be there, could basically hang out, get a beer, have a coffee, have conversations, and have structured discussions around certain topics, my feeling was that if we could get to that point, some cool things could come up from that meeting. So that's when I started like creating this idea of, hey, let's meet and let's have face-to-face conversations.
Interesting, because I just wanted to show a picture of that Regenesis Summit, and you already answered a few questions I prepared. Because what I was thinking about, if you consider how not long ago the Community Summit was before the Regenesis Summit, I was thinking, was the vibe different when you met together for the Regenesis Summit, or was it the same vibe that you felt in the Community Summit earlier the year?
I think it was similar. The Regenesis Summit was less structured, less organized, less production. Basically, my goal for that summit was to make it self-funded, so the community would fund the event by buying the NFT tickets. So we didn't have the budget that the foundation had, but we rented a nice co-working space. We had dinner together, we had lunch together, and we've been basically in a conference room for almost 3 days. I think the vibe was pretty similar.
I remember that I think a few other users back then really wanted to join the summit remotely. But this remote option was cancelled on very short notice. Can you explain why that decision was made back then?
2 months was pretty okay for that. My idea was to get funding for people who couldn't pay for the travel, and that's why I created. Well, I proposed the idea of getting the travel funds, and I've asked private donors to put money for that because I felt it was important for people who was engaging in the community to be there. I don't know. I think it was enough time, and I don't feel that a lot of people decided not to come just for the
No,
timing. I think
no,
there
no.
was.
I mean the remote participation that we could listen, the users that couldn't
Oh,
come. Yeah,
oh, sorry. Yeah. Got
I
it, got it,
think
got it.
maybe my pronunciation is not the best today. No.
No, got it.
I was just talking about the remote participation because this
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah,
something that was announced very early in the beginning of the planning
yeah,
of the
yeah.
Regenesis Summit. And I remember I and a few other users really really planned to attempt as much as we could in this
Mhm.
time. And then it was very on short notice removed that we
Yeah,
could
yeah.
participate.
So that was my idea from the very beginning. And when we met, we had like the discussion about streaming or not streaming or how created. I think it was the only thing that created some kind of tension between the people who were there. And there was like a vote, an impromptu decision, and it got decided to not do it. From my point of view, I think I don't think it would have been um, like weird to stream it, but it was a decision that was made by the people who were there. So
Mm.
my original idea was to basically stream it, and that's why I've asked. So Tovik brought his cameras and everything because the idea was to do it, and then the argument was basically okay, like if we have cameras here, if we have to pay attention to what's happening on the screens, we will lose the feeling of being present and having like IRL conversations. It was a decision that was made by the group. It wasn't a single individual who said no, this is not going to happen. I feel that created unnecessary like shadiness type of thing. But the reason behind was that, like, hey, if we're here, let's take advantage of being present and being in real life.
Mm. Like, I think this was a time where many controversies were sparked, like backroom deals, centralization, those were some of the accusations that a few of the participants had to deal with after the summit, after they came back to the Decentraland. And did you had any idea this could come a problem back then?
No, not really. I mean,
Mm,
I didn't expect to. Uh, I don't know. I think that the people who attended, at least the people with who I had conversations, uh, the, everyone was like super passionate about the project.
mm,
So I I kind I kind understand why there was some hate around that, but
mm,
I felt it was super unjustified, and that's why I've tried to open up as much as possible the conversations that we had. Uh, I've engaged in Twitter Spaces. We open up the documents and the things that were registered for the community to take a look. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting
mm.
that hate.
I think you only had like 3 days for the entire summit. I imagine this was very stressful, not much time, many decisions. So, was what was it for you, like working under such a time pressure back then?
So for me, it was like really nice. We had, uh, I mean, the conversations were really, I don't know how to say it, like mature. They were really professional. Um, a lot of people that was there was people that had like countless hours of in-world experiences
Mm,
on their backs, and then we had people who were more on the so some foundation members that were more on the operational side of things, some founding members that maybe didn't engage with the project that much at that time, but decided to come because they felt uh, the discussions that were going to be held there were important enough to be present at least for 2 days or 2 days and a half. Um, and I think that created the sense of, okay, something important is happening here. Something, yeah, something good might come from from this experience.
mm. So back then, I think the groups also worked on defining a mission for the DAO. And let me put up the mission you came up with. Own your digital life through open standards to enable social connections. This was something that you came about on the summit. Could you share with us what shaped that vision?
Yeah, it was probably the hardest. It was probably the hardest conversation. So basically, we divided the big group into smaller working groups, and everyone came up with a mission for the DAO. So the thing that you read is not the mission for the DAO. The thing that you read is the vision for Decentraland as a project. So
Mm,
the mission for the DAO is to ensure the sustainability of the Decentraland ecosystem through representative governance, efficient management of collective resources, and technical innovation. So
mm.
that's the thing
This was
that
the
we
mission
came
back
up.
then.
Yeah, that was a mission
Mhm.
that we came up. And basically on Saturday morning, we spent, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours with a like a facilitation exercise to get to that mission. So every working groups, I think we had 4 or 5 working groups. Each one of us came up with one vision and then with one mission, and then we tried to combine those missions into one. And I recall having a lot of discussions and back and forth for like each one of the words that are present on that
Mm,
statement. And I don't think um, I don't think this mission is perfect, but that's the beauty about consensus, right? You get to the point where you can get, like, that's how consensus work. So I think it's good enough, and it's helping us to basically make some decisions now and organize some of the things that we're organizing with Regenesis Labs. So I kind of like it.
You just said that there were some discussions inside the groups. Were there any moments when you felt like that these groups might maybe not able to agree on a shared direction?
I mean, yeah, probably. I only been to the group that I was part of, but yeah, I know that in some groups there were some heated discussions. So my group, uh, if I recall correctly, on my group there was HP, Janko, it was Zeno was there, Unknowner was there. Uh, I don't know who else, but we had really good conversations,
Mm.
and we got to pretty good agreements. But I know that in some other teams, there were some tension around certain topics.
Okay, so let's take a step forward. Based on the vision and the mission that followed, you came to the conclusion that the current state of DAO requires an effective and efficient improvements, and therefore a new structure should be proposed to achieve that mission. Was that the starting point for the DAO Council and uh, the, the DCL Regenesis Labs?
Yeah, I mean so for Regenesis Labs, the idea of operational companies is something that it's been around for the last year and a half in a lot of DAOs. As I was telling, as DAOs mature, they get to a point where they feel that they need some kind of structure. Because one of the ways of doing this is to basically restructure the DAO as it is and basically put a legal wrapper on the DAO structure and hire like directors for the DAO, which from my point of view is a little bit, it's a little bit counterintuitive. Uh, and other projects started building these kind of adjacent organizations like operational companies or executive arms that got hired by the DAO to do things that the DAO on its own was struggling to do. So I was reading at a lot of discussions regarding other DAOs making this shift. So I had that in my mind that this could be a way to move forward. And the discussion around the council, like if we needed a council, if we needed some kind of like strategic direction, I think that came up in in Lisbon. So that idea of okay, we need some kind of stewardship, because the issue is that with the previous version of the DAO, with the core units, like no one really had the responsibility, no one had the ownership of the strategy of the DAO, because the community was approving super specific missions for each one of the core units, and that was it. Like it wasn't correct that some core units said, okay, we need to go this route and do this strategy. So there was nothing looking at the overarching view of the DAO of where are we going. So yeah, I think the idea of okay, hey, we need someone to like steward the strategy of the DAO uh, came up in Lisbon.
Hmm. So this is leading us to the next big step in the DAO from the last few years, the restructuring. So let's take a look at the restructuring of the DAO. It officially began with a poll that kicked off the free governance stage process. I think the poll was called "Should we restructure the way our DAO operates?" It was a proposal that you introduced and which passed with nearly 20 million voting power back then. And that set the stage for the DAO Council and the executive arm. But maybe it would be good to shortly explain this. So, in practice, what are the council and the executive arm, and how do they change the way that decisions are made right now? And how is the power responsibility distributed differently now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when the Regenesis Summit ended, um, basically we came up with a with a with a with the task of shaping the proposals. We had a Telegram group between the people who attended Lisbon, So we started crafting the proposals, like the draft proposals, and sharing it in basically in Google Docs, so people could like make put some feedback or make edits or add stuff. And the decision was to, okay, first of all, we need to kill the grants program as it is. Like no more pauses, no, just like let's kill it. Let's stop the bleed, because the grants program pause was going to be automatically lifted by the last day of 2024, and we were in mid-September, so we didn't have a lot of time. So that was the first thing. Okay, let's kill the grants program as it is. And the second thing was okay, let's start walking the path of setting up new entities for DAO. So that's why the proposal regarding the mission and vision and the proposal regarding the council came up first. And after those proposals passed, the executive arm thing came as a follow-up. It was decided to do it like that. It was strategic. So because if we were posting all the proposals at the same time, it didn't make any sense, because you were approving the creation of an executive arm that was going to be overseen by a council, but the proposal of the council was being voted at the same time as the other proposal. So that's why it took a lot of time, because we had to basically to sequence governance processes to make sure that it was easier to understand for everyone.
Mm. So the community's reaction under the comments under the poll were very mixed back then. Could you relate to that? Was it different from what you would have expected?
No, I know that it was going to be I mean, the backlash was going to be there for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I was okay with that, and I'm okay with that. I think that change generates fear sometimes, but I also remember when grant proposals, I don't know, took a lot of money from the DAO treasury, and then they didn't deliver or delivered things that weren't useful or didn't even work, that a lot of people was also annoyed about that. So it's like, yeah, it's change. I mean, I think we all try to be as open as possible regarding the process, and I've exposed myself as much as possible, explaining the rationale behind some of those things. I've done it because I've started this whole thing, but the reality is that it was a shared conversation, and like the discussions were made by a lot of people, not only me. But I took the style of answering and being at the forefront of the discussion. So it didn't surprise me. Like the backlash didn't surprise me. Actually, the thing that surprised me was some community members that I thought that, like, my initial thought was that there were going to be haters, and they actually supported the change. But again, it's like when things change, there's always some level of uncertainty that creates fear or anger, and that's fine. I mean, it's okay.
Looking back, is there anything that you would have communicated differently? No, from with what you knew? No.
Yeah, probably I would have given more time for community feedback, or created a way to I don't know, to generate more like structured feedback, because sometimes when you post something and ask people for feedback, it's too broad, and people might have, I don't know, might have doubts, or might have, I don't know, fear or whatever, or they just don't know how to start. So maybe I would have done something different regarding the facilitation of the community feedback. That's for sure, yeah.
So, but let's talk about something that I imagine being super nice, because you see this whole governance process from an idea coming to an actual structural change. How was that for you back then?
Painful and long.
Oh,
I
sheesh.
mean,
I
but
was hoping for a
no, but it
more
was
positive
amazing.
answer.
I mean, it was amazing as any cool thing. Like it takes time, it takes effort.
Yeah.
Some people will wherever hate you or be annoyed with
Mm,
you, and some other people will support you. It's like it is what it is. I think that this might be a good path. And the cool
mm,
thing about these kind of like technologies and the way that we're organizing ourselves is that if this doesn't work, we can change again. It's like we can do it.
mm,
So it's better to take the opportunity to test something new, see how it goes, and if it doesn't work, that's fine. I mean, the community can decide to do other things, can change the way in which we operate, but we needed to test something new because the reality that is that we were like avoiding the issues by
yeah.
pausing the grants program. We were avoiding the issues, and the reality is that we were like in the in the current state of Decentraland as a project, like under investing on things, it's criminal. It's
Mm,
criminal. Like if you have the money, you need to keep building and keep doing things. And we were avoiding the issue of deciding how that funding was going to be directed.
mm.
So yeah, painful and rewarding
At the same
equally.
time.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So we are now at the end of May, like 6 months after this poll has kicked off. Since then, the council has been formed, and you've stepped into the role as an executive director. And the executive's arm's budget was approved, and the first job postings for the executive arm have also been published. So for me, now it feels like the right moment to talk about the moment where you got elected as executive director. And I would love to hear more about your vision and your plans for what's actually laying ahead of us. So, your appointment as executive director. We touched this a little earlier already, but I would like to dive a little deeper into it. And could you maybe first explain to us what your main responsibilities are as the executive director?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so let's talk about the process first because I know the process has been I don't know, controversial. Um, I mean, I nominated myself to the DAO Council. I presented a document with a plan that was um, heavily commented by the council, and we had a long discussion regarding that document. In that document, I basically laid up the plan for setting up the entity, setting up the operations, where should we focus the efforts and the budget, uh, and and crafted a set of like guiding principles for the organization. Um, and then I had interviews with each one of the council members, and in the end, I had like a formal presentation of the plan with the whole council. So
Hmm.
uh, that's the way I got elected. That's the way I got hired for the job. Um,
You're one step
I,
ahead of me because
okay.
I would have liked to talk with you about what the executive director's responsibilities are, what the job description is about, and then come to this point. But I'm very happy that you are taking the chance to talk about this because you're right. It
Mhm.
was a very heated decision back then, and it was watched by many eyes. So
Mhm.
hearing this from you, thank you very much for sharing this with us. So
Okay, let's go back to the responsibilities, and then we can came back
maybe
to this
maybe this is
topic.
better just to have a starting point what the executive director of a DAO actually does for us to
Yeah.
understand
So
better.
basically, my role is to make sure the operations of the Regenesis Labs are like in place and working, hiring, making sure that the projects that gets funded with the treasury are executed in time and in a good manner. Help setting up the strategy, even though that's a formal responsibility of the council. Strategy is a process that it's circular, right? Like you set up strategies, start executing on that strategy, and the execution of that strategy gives you more information to refine the strategy. So creating that flywheel, it's also part of the executive director's responsibility. And it's basically making sure that the teams that we hire, the projects that we fund, the money that we spend are well reasoned, justified, and strategically aligned to what the council is deciding. The executive director is also responsible for basically the transparency of the operations, right? One of the main differences between the Decentraland Foundation and Regenesis Labs as an organization is that Regenesis Labs has the obligation of being transparent to the community on their operations, on their spending. So my plan is to produce an annual transparency report and also quarterly reports on the things that we did and how we are basically spending the money. So it's about leading the organization, making sure everyone is on the same page, and making sure that the strategy that the council defines gets embedded into the teams in the form of executable projects and products.
Thank you very much for summarizing this again for us. I think that understanding starts with actually, listening and being on the same page. So thank you very much for that. But since you already now mentioned it, I would like to ask you, you were very deeply involved in the organizing of the Regenesis Summit and the DAO restructuring at all. When you started thinking, because I already said you applied yourself for that position, so when you started to think about becoming the executive director, did that feel like a conflict of interest in any way for you? Was this something that you needed to think about for yourself?
No, not at all. I mean, I wasn't getting money from the DAO. We decided to wind down the operations of the governance squad. I mean, for the last couple of months, I've been working in different projects, doing different things. No, I didn't have a conflict of interest because I didn't have any position or any position of power in the DAO.
Okay, so let's come to the space where you already are the executive director. And one of the first things that you did back then was giving the executive arm a new name, Regenesis Labs. What was your idea behind that?
I think executive arm is too boring. I mean, I didn't want it to work in an organization called executive arm. It's like it feels military, So, I mean, getting a name for anything, it's one of the most annoying things. And the recommendation for the smartest people I know, it's like, do it quickly and just continue with the thing that you're doing, right? So I needed a name because, I mean, if I'm going to be doing hiring, if I need an email domain, if I need to create like a landing page to inform the work that we are doing and to communicate to the community the things that we're going to be doing, like I need a name. That's it. I need a name that it's a little bit more catchy. I need a name that creates or generates the impression that we are trying to do things that are a little bit more innovative. All this came up from the Regenesis Summit. So for me, it was like super clear. This is a labs. It's how other crypto projects name their executive arms. So Optimisms has OP Labs. The Graph has Edge and Node Labs. Like the labs concept is something that it's widely used in the crypto industry. So for me, it was like, okay, we're going to use Regenesis Labs. That's it. Let's move forward with the important things.
Okay. So you also outlined the executive arm strategy for the next 18 months and published the corresponding budget. You already shared a lot about this during the last DAO All Hands meeting, and everyone can read about it in the forum. But could you still walk us one more time through the key initiatives and maybe most important, about the initiatives that personally you feel most committed to?
Yeah. I will do it from the top of my mind and from my heart. Like for me, it's
Perfect.
critical. It's critical that I mean I'm not opening like the Google Drive document. That's what I was trying to say. So for me, it's critical that Decentraland has like a working mobile client ASAP. It's critical to have a VR experience for Decentraland. You probably face the question when you talk about Decentraland that it's like, okay, it's like a VR thing. It's like, no, not really. So for me, it's critical that we widen the audience by being present in multiple devices besides desktop computer. It's fundamental that the DAO funds projects that create engagement, like serious levels of engagement in the existing community, but more importantly, bringing new people to Decentraland. So anything related to games, anything related to events or things that can make Decentraland feel lively and fun again are critical. We definitely need to make sure that we have a proper and mature treasury management strategy for the DAO's treasury. It's so the difference, the huge difference between the runway that the Decentraland Foundation has and the runway that the Decentraland DAO has, especially taking into consideration that the expenses of the Decentraland Foundation are way higher than the expenses that the DAO had in the last years, makes it clear that we lost a lot of amazing opportunities in like regarding expanding our runway. So not managing our treasury for the last 4 years was a huge mistake, and put us in a situation where we are right now, that even though the DAO treasury is big enough to support a lot of initiatives, it's way smaller than it could be, because we didn't manage it strategically. So I think that's also important. And finally, I would like to make sure that Decentraland is back again connected with any kind of like innovation. Like the word innovation should be closer to the concept of Decentraland. I would love to see more people building in Decentraland with AI. I would love to see agents being present in Decentraland scenes. I
Oh,
would like to.
I think you would like SpongeTron.
Yeah,
Is one of the AI agents that
yeah.
he is currently working on. So
So
it's an interesting
anything,
topic.
yeah, I think anything related to that. So probably the metaverse is the most suitable ecosystem for this kind of sentient agents. So having something like that, I believe it could create some interest in developer communities as well. So for me, that's critical. And then, well, hackathons, of course, funding community projects, creating a new version of like the grants program, more strategically oriented, more focused on making sure that the people that is asking for the money has the knowledge to execute on those projects. Like that's also important.
So regarding VR, isn't that something that the foundation teasered to tackle for the new client? So what is the plan now? Do we get 2 VR clients or
No,
how?
Foundation is not working in any VR implementation.
Mm.
No,
Because
not at all.
because I remember that it was mentioned at something when a new client dropped that it's going to be interesting for the future. So from now on, the DAO will be the one who's going to work on this.
So the Godot-based VR client is there. Like it's not production ready for sure. So the focus is on the Go client. That's what the protocol squad, the former protocol squad, is building, and they will continue building that and making sure that it's a product that is production ready. That's why the first hires for that team are going to be a product manager and a product designer to make sure that the product is ready to be used by general audience. But no, Foundation is not working in any kind of VR implementation. And even though if Foundation was working in a VR implementation, that's fine. But the DAO is basically investing money in open source technologies. So I think it is important to have something like the Go client out there for the community to use.
Okay, so thank you very much. I think we covered a lot and we are already talking for a while now. And yeah, thank you very much for your open words. It's been for me a real pleasure. And I would like to ask if there are any points in this discussion that I may have missed and that you would like to bring up. Or could we maybe come to the interesting part of today for the community to ask you questions? Because I see we already got a few ones. So is there any topic that we haven't touched that you would like to bring up?
No, I mean, I really enjoy the conversation. I think it is important to have these kind of discussions that are like not one way. So having community questions, I think, is the most interesting part of all this. So let's start with that.
Awesome. So everyone here in world, now it's part for you to ask the questions. You have the UI. You can see it on the top right of your screen. Sorry. And if you have any problems, please ask MGD. He is here to help. Yeah. Up until now, you could react with the emojis. I hope you have used this, friends. And just a quick reminder: questions are not anonymous. And while everyone is hopefully now taking a moment to write down the thoughts, I also have prepared a few questions that I believe might reflect what some of the users might be curious about. So if you're ready, Gino, and still have a bit of energy, let's dive into it.
Yep.
So my first question would be, we are talking much about community. I would like to know, what is the Decentraland community for you?
A collection of weird and amazing people trying to make the internet a better place.
So for the community, do we need to be inward to be the community? Or is it, if we participate in the DAO, are we part of the community? Or is it the overall mix of people that come together and are interested in this project?
For me, the Decentraland community is is anyone who feels part of it. And my view of this project is that there are a lot of like meta games. So creating assets, it's a meta game. Investing and trading mana is a meta game. Being in worlds and meeting with people in events is a meta game. Participating in governance is a meta game. So they're all like Decentraland meta games. For me, all of them are part of the Decentraland experience, right? And some people will do all of them. Some people will do some of them. Some people will do just one. But it's like you're deciding which game you want to play on the Decentraland ecosystem.
So everyone who felt like part of the community is part of the community. Okay, I like this and I got it. I see that we have 2 more questions, so I think the users are already ready. So let's have a look on these questions. You can see them behind you on the screen. You should see them. Wait. Yeah, it's working. Awesome, MGD. Thanks for that. So this question comes from Dr. Drip. What does a perfect DCL look like in the future? What is your vision of the future of the wearable marketplace?
So for me, the perfect DCL is a DCL that it's vibrant, that it has economic activity, that it has people using it to showcase their creative endeavors, but also their like social experiences. Like Decentraland is valuable only if it provides like a green field for human interaction. For me, that's critical. So we definitely need a bigger audience. We definitely need more engagement, and we definitely need better, let's say, social features. So for me, that's fundamental. Another thing that it's key is that Decentraland as platform should be present in every device that we use on our day-to-day. I really like the idea of being connected somehow with Decentraland on my mobile phone. That might be a fully featured client or a side Quest application, like a side companion application for the Decentraland experience. And regarding the vision of the future of the wearable marketplace, so a couple of things. First of all, I would like to see tools that lower the barrier for creating content in Decentraland. So wearables specifically are challenging because you have the avatar, the armature, like it's complex to create wearables. So I would like to have tools that makes it easy for everyone to create wearables. But fundamentally, I would like to see a marketplace that it's not only about avatar related items, right? So I would love to buy a nice house to place on my land. Like I would love to see architects building things in Decentraland and selling them as NFTs. I would love to see users creating a small scene using either the creator hub or the in-world building, and then creating a composable NFT to sell that scene on the marketplace. I would love to see way more smart items in the marketplace, like more interactive type of assets. So for me, it's about new categories. Like we need to make sure that we are allowing the broader, the biggest amount of people to create content in Decentraland. Of course, there is like a technical barrier because we are talking about 3D models, we're talking about immersive experiences, but we need to make sure that we're lowering the barrier to allow way more people to build in Decentraland.
So my takeaway from your answer is regarding the perfect DCL for the future, social features and present on all devices, and I love the smartphone idea. That would come super handy. And regarding the marketplace, you envision it to be more low barrier and also open the doors to new things like, as I said, houses, assets for users, and so stuff like this. Sounds very interesting, and I hope, Dr. Drip, your question got answered with this. I'm waiting for feedback in the chat, and in the meantime, we are having a look at the next question that is by Redacted. So, I hope you're ready, Gino. If a DAO is defined as an organizational structure with no central governing body, does the creation of the council and the selection as executive director change the DAO into something else?
No, because the DAO, the DAO itself is not changing. The way that people vote on the critical aspects of the protocol is still the same. The only thing that it changed is the way that we execute on projects funded by the DAO. That's the main difference. I think that's an important differentiation. So when Toxic posted a tweet promoting this event, so she wrote something like the new DAO executive director, and I'm not the executive director of the DAO. I'm the executive director of Regenesis Labs. The DAO, as it is, still retains the power of the critical smart contracts of the project. The recent poll regarding the use of empty land was a fundamental example of open discussions and community power regarding the critical aspects of the project. So I think that's fundamental. So what we are changing right now, it's not the DAO, it's how we execute and how we fund projects for the DAO. Regarding the council itself, Well, yes, there is something different there because we now have an organism, we now have a body that it's not a governing body, but it's a stewardship strategy body. So that might be a little bit of a change, uh, but but it's not that we're modifying the DAO. We're modifying how we execute projects in DAO.
Hmm. I see redacted answering inward. That is a reasonable distinction, and I can accept that. I'm still pro central governing body.
Okay, I mean it's valid. Um, Maybe you wanna explain a little bit what you refer with pro central governing body reacted. Like for example, would you prefer to have a central entity that could upgrade the central and smart contracts without asking the community? For me, for example, that would be a red flag. Like if we are doing that, we are basically a regular normal corporation.
Hmm. So while we're giving redacted a little time to think about this and answer, we will have a look at the next question. And redacted was way faster than expected. I don't think a DAO can make a good product because there are too many cooks in the kitchen. And I think this is an opinion. We don't have to agree on this, but
Oh,
um,
I tend to agree. I think that's. I mean, I wouldn't say that a DAO cannot make a good product. I think it's way more difficult. There are examples of completely decentralized organizations that ship products that are widely used, but I mean, those projects came with like embedded tension from the very beginning. I'm thinking about MakerDAO. I'm thinking about Uniswap. And they are basically fully centralized projects that crafted products that are useful and widely used. The thing is that, and since I agree with what you're saying, most of those entities end up creating a more, I mean, I don't know if the word is centralized, but a more regular type of organization that they hire to build and execute on things. And that's what Regenesis Labs is as a project.
okay. I think this was a good answer on the question. I would go to the next one to give
Yeah.
everyone the chance to be heard. And this one is by Marika Zürcher. Why is the regularity of presence on the scene not rewarded and promoted, and we continue to praise scenes that are always empty and that live of a glorious past that no longer exists?
To be honest, I don't have an answer for that question. I could get into technical details on why rewarding presence on a scene is super cheatable, but I'm not sure if Marika is talking about that or it's talking about something a little bit more conceptual.
I think this could
It's,
maybe, Marika, please tell me if I'm wrong, but I think this could be also about the discover boards on Genesis Plaza, where sometimes in the past we had the problem that we had builds up there that weren't active anymore, and
Mhm.
that very active places didn't get a shout out and hadn't much users chances to find them. So I think this is
Mhm.
regarding this. But
Yeah,
Marika,
I mean,
please feel
to be
free.
honest, I don't have a good answer for that. Uh, I think that if we have some ideas on how to improve that, it's something that we could discuss between Regenesis Labs and the foundation. Uh, but I mean, my perception at least is that from the socials of Decentraland and the emails and everything, the team behind those initiatives are they are making great efforts on finding the most lively and active scenes currently out there in Genesis City.
Mhm. And I think I already saw, Marika, that Foundation is aware of the problem. And if I'm not totally wrong, in the help channel, there's, I think yesterday was a discussion regarding this. So maybe it's worth to dive into this while we are going to the next question by Mohedi. Can you describe how the DAO and the Foundation will interact from now?
Yes. So, I mean, we are already well, when Mohedi says the DAO, I would say Regenesis Labs.
I think
So
this is, yeah.
yeah. So basically, I mean, I've started having weekly conversations with the foundation leadership. I'm aware of the roadmaps. Um, we've been starting conversations regarding potential collaborations that we could make, and the end goal is to basically reduce the level of alignment as much as possible and making sure that we are executing on the same direction without overlap, but with alignment and cohesion. Uh, so the how, it's talking, sharing workspaces, sharing Slack channels, discussions, like all of that. It's going to be part of the day-to-day interactions, and that will inform the community projects that we decide to fund. Because in the past we had situations where the community voted for grant projects that were super cool on the papers, but weren't executable because there was some misalignment with what foundation was building, or a feature that was promised to be shipped in a certain queue got delayed 6 months and things like that. So now we will have first-hand information on those things.
Thank you for that answer, Mahedi. I hope this answered the question for you. If not, let us please know in the chat, and we're heading to the next one. And this one is by NGD. Hey Gino, is it planned to make the alternate DAO clients compatible with the new main run of client 2, or will that be totally separated?
No, it's a goal. It's something that needs to happen. It's not simple because some of the decisions that were made regarding how the new realms work, but we need to find a solution for that.
Okay. So, friends, the feature to submit your questions is open again. So feel free to ask. We have still 2 left and a few other questions in the back that I have prepared when you need to think of questions. So let's go straight to the next one by Ellen Hovick. Hello. What is the plan for the web browser version of Decentraland? Will it be shut down at some point? Is there any chance it can be updated and remain relevant? Thank you.
Okay, so I mean, I cannot answer this question because right now it's on the foundation's domain. I don't know what's the final decision on that, but what I can say is that if the web version gets deprecated sometime, at least my position is that the DAO should fund an alternative web version. That's my point of view, and it's a personal point of view. I think that it's critical for Decentraland that a web version exists out there. I totally understand why prioritizing a desktop client that can take advantage of GPUs and can make a better use of the hardware is critical, and it makes sense. But I feel that a web version for Decentraland is fundamental. And my position as the executive director of Regenesis Labs is that if at some point there is no Decentraland web version, we should make sure that we are funding the development of one. And I would also like to mention that the conversations that I've been having with the protocol squad regarding the developments they are doing in the Vevi and the Godot client, I've basically told them that we needed to start planning to potentially support a web version with any of those two clients in the future if something's happened there.
Okay. So we have two more questions, Marika Zücher. I think you forgot to add a question. So one more question from community and from Redacted. Have you used Hyperfy, seen what it is capable of, and think that it demonstrates the foundation gave up on browser-based too early?
I've used Hyperfy. I'm following basically everything they're doing. I think Three.js is super powerful. I don't think that necessarily correlates with the decision regarding the browser-based version of Decentraland. So sometimes when a project has less exposure and it's more lighter, let's say, I think Hyperfy can benefit from being smaller and being more, I don't know, maybe agile in the way they develop. They allow them to do pretty cool stuff. I've been following very closely the work that they've been doing with Eliza OS and the agent stuff, and I think that's really, really cool. I think they were also smart enough to quickly develop extensions for Blender and making sure that their developer tooling was top notch for people building in Hyperfy. And yeah, the reality is that the Three.js engine that they use perform really, really well. I believe that there is some knowledge there that we could take advantage from for sure.
I see some messages in the chat from Masterbrains. I think Hyperfile learned from Decentraland's mistakes.
Yes, I completely agree with that. And so I'm not sure, but word on the street says that Hyperfy original founders were Decentraland supporters back in 2018. I don't know if some of you knows them, but that's what I've heard. So I agree with what Masa was saying.
Okay, so I don't see any more questions from the community. I would give you all 5 more minutes to, if you have a question, to write them down. And in the meantime, because we're coming closely to an end of our event today, we're already talking since, nearly 2 hours. And I have another question while everyone else hopefully is thinking of their own questions. What opportunities, and I think you already talked a little bit about this, but what opportunities will users have in the future to receive support from the DAO, from the Regenesis Labs, now that the grant program as we know it no longer exists?
So by the end of this year, we will have a new grants program that it's not going to work as the previous one, but making sure that community funding is available is one of our top priorities.
Okay, so this kind of answers one of my next questions that I had in mind. When we can expect to see the first results and when the first initiatives actually start being to be implemented. So
the protocol squad is already working. We are starting to engage with different studios that have been building stuff in Decentraland to create some scenes. I'm also basically doing the homework, the boring part. So I'm working on the formation of the legal entity, working on finding a good partner for the treasury management strategy, like hiring, all that stuff. That it's foundations, like it's not cool shit to show, but it's something that needs to happen before those cool projects came up. But as I was saying, the protocol squad is shipping. The new like content scene development team is also being formed, and I would love to have at least one hackathon happening in Q3. So that's something that I would like to do.
And something that we all can look forward to. Okay, so one more questions I can see. I hope it's from Master Waynes, and that is, what kind of games are you interested in bringing to Decentraland?
So I think that by looking at what Roblox is doing regarding games that are not focused on like gaming skills, but more around designing stuff, around like doing showcases, fashion, things that are engaging for people to spend time in there without having to have like hardcore gaming like skills, is something that it's important, and I believe that with the current performance of Decentraland could be doable. But I would also love to have like a really fun multiplayer experience, something as simple as, I don't know, an Among Us, or something a little bit more challenging, that like I don't know, like a transversal RPG like of experience or something like that. I've been talking with 3 gaming studios, and I've been sharing with them basically the capabilities of the platform to see if they came up with a concept that it's like fun enough and engaging. I believe that the void that Decentraland games left in the community, even though I'm not a big fan of like casino type of things, it's a problem. I mean, we had one project that created like real engagement and financial incentives in our community, and we need to find something that it's maybe a little bit more aligned with our values, but provides the same experience for our users.
Thank you for that answer, and I think Master Waynes is also thanking you. I see we got a new question in, and maybe this is the last one from the community. No, it's from Alan Hovick. I've heard that at some point the foundation will pass all control of Decentraland over to the DAO. Is this correct? And if so, what is the time frame? Thank you.
So it's technically correct. So the foundation is an entity that it's designed not to survive forever, because it doesn't have any source of income, as the DAO has with the marketplace fees. It is on the original like vision for the foundation to at some point handle the power of Decentraland as a project, the power of building Decentraland as a project to the community in the form of the DAO. There is no time frame for that. The foundation has done an amazing work on building the runway, and there are a lot of things that they are still doing, and they need to do in order to make Decentraland like a better product, a better platform. So I don't see that happening in the near or midterm future.
And I just want to notice that I really love that you're all engaging in world and answering the questions to each other. This is awesome. And if no more questions are coming in now, I would like to ask you my last question of the day, Gino, if this would be okay for you.
Yeah.
And I would like to know from you, what do you expect from the community in this new phase of a DAO? Because we talked much about what we expect from you and what you're doing. So maybe one time.
I think I expect engagement, good faith, and ideas. I mean, I'm leading the efforts of setting up this entity and the processes, but you guys are the breadth of Decentraland, and you guys are the ones who have probably the most amazing ideas. So I'm open to hear. Of course, I will steward the strategy with vision, and I will make sure that I put a product view on the things that we are doing. But I really want to hear. I really want to hear you guys. What things would you like to see in Decentraland? Because now we have an instrument to execute on those projects.
Okay, so I think we got a really nice conversation going on today, and I would like to give you all the chance to let us know if you have any more questions or if you're also um, have something to
I,
think about today. Oh,
I
yeah.
would I would like to ask Alan, who's asking if the DAO could take over Wondermind, update it, and reintroduce it into a new client. I'm happy to announce that that is happening right now. So the team that was previously working on migrating scenes from SDK 6 to SDK 7, that was a grant funded by the DAO. I've been talking with them, and I've asked them to keep working on the things that they were working, even though their grant ended this month. So, well, last month. So I'm still working with them, and they are working with Rob, the original owner of Wondermine, to migrate the Wondermine scene to the SDK 7, and hopefully that will be um, published in production sometime next week. So
Awesome. I
we
think
will,
many users will be happy about this.
yes.
Okay, so thank you very, very much, Gino, and thanks everyone for being here in World with us. I know, Gino, that you have kind of a very transparent and open way to reach out, but would you like to tell the users if they have any questions that may occur after this event, how it's the best to contact you or to go in contact with you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you can send me a message on Discord. You can write me a DM on Twitter. My handle is Gino Cingolani. Um, my Calendly link is posted in a lot of places. I'm kind of regretting because I'm getting a lot of spam now.
Oh no.
But but if you wanna wherever schedule something, like if you have an idea, if you wanna share uh, wherever something that you're working on, just let me know. We will get better at this as soon as I have more people uh, helping with the operations and the comms and the strategy of the Regenesis Labs ecosystem. But yeah, I mean, for the moment, just reach out personally, and I'll do my best to answer and help.
I think this is awesome because honestly, this is a learning process, I think, for all of us. How we can communicate better than in the past. And I think events like this are very good to keep a start. So thank you very much, everyone who took the time today. And I think we will close down the Discord connection now. And I hope everyone here enjoyed this exclusive in-world event. A recording will be uploaded later. And thank you for that.
Thanks so much. It's been amazing, and I'm super happy to keep serving this community.